So Marvel has come crawling back to the Russo brothers. Okay, now I'm not going to be one of these people that sits here and says, fuck Disney, fuck Marvel. No, because ultimately I do want good content.
Yeah.
And the Russo brothers did put out some good Marvel movies, right? Like I think go back to Favreau, to be perfectly honest, you know, Iron Man, like great film. But the Russo brothers did put out some of the good Marvel movies. In fact, the Russo brothers by themselves have actually put out garbage, but when they were under Marvel, they were putting out good stuff. And coincidentally and funnily enough, Marvel, without the Russo brothers, have been putting out garbage, but with the Russo brothers, they're putting out good stuff. So maybe this is a match made in heaven. You know, they did Captain America: The Winter Soldier, for instance, arguably one of the better Marvel movies.
It's my favorite Marvel movie.
Exactly. So I don't hate this. They want apparently the Russo brothers for both of the Avengers movies, Avengers 5 and 6. So I'm not going to be one of these people that poo-poos it and laughs at it, right? Like, what does that achieve? You know, I do want good content at the end of the day. And this is a step in the right direction. I think it's funny from one perspective, though, because I do know the Russo brothers, they did, you know, shit talk Marvel for a while. Like, they weren't great on Marvel. And, you know, they signed a pretty big deal with Netflix as well. That's clearly just gone up in flames now, I would imagine. But I don't hate this news. I don't hate the news at all. Just to coincide with this, though, Robert Downey Jr. is rumored to return as Doctor Doom.
What?
So he's going to return as Tony Stark and
Big
then
Fat Robot or whatever the hell the name of that website is.
No, Jeff Snyder.
Comicbookmovie.com.
Jeff Snyder. No, it's Jeff Snyder. This is just an article, but it is from Jeff Snyder, who actually does have some pretty good leaks. So I just thought I'd pepper that in there because that's a terrible idea, and I would hate that. But there you go.
You know what that sounds like to me? That Robert Downey Jr. as Doom. To me, that sounds like Marvel knows that they have leakers in their midst. So they put out a bunch of different fake scoops in several places in the organization, and they see which one makes it to the public.
Yep.
There they have
Andrew's got a point. Because that sounds silly.
Yeah, well, let's not dwell on that too much. I mean, let's talk about the actual, because the main.
Well, let's not let the Russos off the hook altogether, because they did make Fat Thor and some other issues with, like, Endgame was not as well received as everything else they did. But that being said, I see this as pretty much what Kevin Feige said he was going to do a few months back. I had pointed out that he had made a statement. I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but basically he was kind of saying that they were going to go back to more seasoned directors in so many words. Because this experiment with all these young DEI directors was not working. He didn't say that part, but I'm just saying it's pretty clear. That's problem one that needs to be solved, is they need to get some people behind these that kind of know what they're doing. Right. So this does not surprise, especially considering the way they did badmouth Marvel. It is kind of surprising. That's the part that surprises me. So that's where I'm coming to the conclusion that this is Feige on his knees going, I need you right now. I think
that, you know what I think? Sir, I didn't mean to intercut, but just on that note, I think that they need each other. Because memory serves,
true,
it was the Russo brothers that probably leaked to the press that they were interested in doing another Avengers movie, and with that out there, Kevin Feige would look like an idiot if he didn't take them up on it. So they may have forced that to happen, because as you mentioned earlier, Mr. H, they have made the best Marvel movies, but without Marvel, their movies have completely and utterly sucked. So this is the kind of thing, just like Peter Sellers and a Blake Edwards. They made decent movies all on their own, but together, magic happened. And I think something like that is going on, that when these two guys are paired with the Marvel Universe, magic things happen. But they need good writers as well.
Yes.
Because what they have to do, they have to get back the same writers that helped them with Captain America, the Winter Soldier, with Captain America, Civil War, with the first two Avengers movies that they did. I forget their names. Script Doctor tweeted this out earlier, saying it doesn't help if they have them on board if you don't get those writers back. So hopefully the first thing that they're going to go is go to be Kevin Feige and say, okay, now you have us, and then bang on the table and say, now we need those guys, because we cannot work that with the hacks that you have running around here right now. All of your assorted DEI hires, they're all useless. They all got to go. All of your movies are going to flop. If this is going to work, we need those guys back. And if they get those back, we are in good hands. I've said before, I have zero faith in Kevin Feige at this point. Zero.
Same.
I have no faith whatsoever in any of the people who are in his writing staff in this moment. The only way that Marvel can be rescued is with new blood from outside. That's what happened with Deadpool versus Wolverine. That's new blood from outside. And hopefully that blood is fresh enough that it's not going to be completely tainted and ruined by Kevin Feige and his cronies within Marvel. Hopefully these guys are going to recognize that the only way this works is we need the outside writers that we've worked with before. Then they can actually turn things around. But just those guys here, these directors, it doesn't help that they're back. It doesn't help which characters they bring back if they can't bring back the writers that helped push their past movies, Endgame possibly aside, into greatness. But I will also say that the problem with Endgame was Kevin Feige and his team right there, because the stuff that didn't work was all the setup for all the shit that came later.
Well, I'll say this with respect to the writers. The last we heard about Avengers 5 was Michael Waldron was fired, which was the writer. He's the writer of Multiverse of Madness. Terrible, terrible film. And then we hear that these guys are on board now, or at least in talks to, at the very least. So it all points to them coming back and then bringing on new writers. Is what it sounds like, doesn't it? So I think hopefully that is the case. Bo, what do you reckon?
Well, this is one of the topics in general that I'm probably not best suited to talk about, particularly the way you sort of passed over to obviously didn't watch the Acolyte. I mean, there's loads of Marvel films I haven't even seen. I got off the Marvel train quite early. Like when Endgame came out, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll watch it at some point, I guess. You know, like it's annoying when people like think they're too good for something like this. I don't mean to be like that. I know it comes across as conceited, but I just like I haven't cared about Marvel stuff for a long time. And when I was a kid, I was never into Marvel comics or DC really. My older brother had loads of 2000 AD, and I read loads of his 2000 AD. I never collected. Right, I never collected Marvel comics and like loved Marvel stuff. I never did. So when and I'm old enough to have already been an adult when they started the whole Marvel thing. And it's the same with Harry Potter. Everyone's really into Harry Potter. I never liked Harry Potter.
Same, me neither.
I don't care about this kid. I don't care. No, I'm already a grown man who works in a bank and pays bills. No, I don't care about this kid.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I'm afraid. And so I'm afraid for me. I mean, yeah, like when all news comes out, I'm just like, yeah, Avengers.
Glaze over.
Yeah, a bit. I'm afraid. Yeah,
that's fair. Well, did I get your thoughts on this, Nick?
No. So the way I see this is, you know, having the Russo brothers back is great, but the thing is, when they came into this back in 2014, when they did Captain America and Winter Soldier, they already had a great foundation that the MCU had set up. The writers for that were Chris Marcus and Stephen McFeely. They haven't done anything, written anything for Marvel since the last Avengers movie, Infinity War and Endgame. So I definitely think they need to get those two guys back for sure. But the foundation of the MCU at this point is trash. So for me, it's like you could bring in the Russo brothers, you could bring in Chris Marcus and Stephen McFeely back writing, but what are they going to do with what they've established to this point? With the Marvels, Doctor Strange, the multiverse crap, the Eternals, like all this just nonsense garbage.
Secret Invasion, lest we forget, because
Secret
now
Invasion.
Rhodey, he's
Yes.
he's been gone since the events of Civil War.
Yeah.
They retroactively decided.
Yep. And like all this stuff that they've done, how are they going to write and direct themselves out of this?
Well, isn't the next two Marvel films the Secret Wars or whatever? So like, can't they reset things through some shenanigans?
Yeah, they do have the ability.
Maybe maybe they could do that.
That's the only way I can see the Robert Downey Jr. rumor having any weight to it, is that it's not our Tony Stark, it's a Tony Stark from another universe. Sorry, Nick.
That is what the rumor is.
Yeah. So I don't know how they're gonna fix the MCU. Unless they do some shenanigans like that, where it's basically like a soft reboot, reset of the universe, and then move forward from that point. Like I just saw in the news yesterday, Microsoft, basically got rid of their whole entire DEI team. They're like, this isn't working. More and more companies are doing this. Hopefully Disney will see the light at some point and stop with all this DEI nonsense and actually get qualified, experienced people in here to fix all this and do the same with Star Wars. I'm not holding my breath for any of that to happen. But I think they got a very tough job ahead of them with the current state of the MCU.
Yep, I agree with that. Tom, you want to add in some final thoughts?
I pretty much agree with everybody, and I mean, just kind of bouncing off of what Andre and I were kind of saying earlier at this point. I don't trust Kevin Feige, like Andre said, but I just kind of hope that this is a sign that Kevin Feige, because he's not dumb. Okay. If there's probably anybody in Hollywood who can probably learn and pivot real quick, it's probably him. And I think that's the rumors I keep hearing, and I've heard from other people, and they keep being the same rumors. He's licking his wounds. He learned the hard way. He even said he underestimated Bob Chapek, if you remember. Like, he is not somebody who's above admitting that they fucked up a little bit. Pardon my French. And I think he has realized they've screwed up. Now, Andre and I have talked about this many times in the morning show. I'm sure we brought it up here before too, as well. Like, the problem is they have, Deadpool versus Wolverine, which is an island in a sea of piss right now.
Yeah. 100%.
And unfortunately, these other movies, they have to release. There's no way around it. Now, I don't agree with them throwing more good money after bad at them. They should have just chopped them down as much as possible, got them out there quietly, or chopped them up into Disney Plus shows that nobody will watch. But they can't do that because they have to be in theaters, unfortunately, at this point. So that's the problem. But there is a few Disney Plus shows that they could just flush. I'm talking Ironheart, stuff like that. I think they have flushed it kind of has been memory hold, even though it's still kind of sitting there in kind of like, it's like Schrodinger's series right now. It's both.
Well, in fairness,
canceled and not canceled at the same time. Yeah.
Well, we will find out this month because they're set to appear at SDCC. So I guess that will actually be when if
we get like if we have Feige come out and he's got like this whole new kind of direction for Marvel going forward, that kind of somewhat confirms what we were saying, especially if he says like, not only the Russos coming back, we're getting, maybe either some previous veteran Marvel directors or even some new veteran directors who are going to finally get to throw their hat into the Marvel ring, right? Because I mean,
I'm surprised there'd be any veteran directors that would want to.
I know that's the problem, right? But again, it's one of those cases where if you catch the right falling stars as far as directors go, you might be able to snag him up as trying to take a shot. And a lot of these guys are comic book fans.
Yeah.
Right. Even Tarantino's talked about how he'd love to do a Luke Cage movie. Now, they would never let him do a Luke Cage movie the way he'd want to, but wouldn't you want to see a badass blaxploitation Quentin Tarantino Luke Cage movie? I know I would.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, look, just to round it out real quick, because we do need to shuffle on, but I would say it's actually too little too late. I do think they have sort of screwed the pooch, as it was, that the universe may be a bit too broken, and also the goodwill from people sort of lost it now. But we'll see.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Gypsy Danny Mixboy for $4.99 says, Disney and the Russo brothers to each other, you could not live with your own failures. Where did that bring you? Back to me. Yeah, does seem that way, mate. We got one from Chaos is Fun over on Streamlabs and says, the downside I see is using the current cast of characters like Captain Black Falcon and Kang Valkyrie. People just won't care enough to watch it, even if they're good movies. Not to mention the tick box commies in the writer's room and non-C Disney management. Yeah, I agree with all of that as well.
Oh, yeah. What are they going to do with Kang now at this point?
Well, and it's funny because, I was just going to address that because virtual reality fitness brings up a good question. Or a good point. There's still people invested in the Kang story. Yep. Is there even a Kang story left? But that's the other rumor going around, is that they are thinking of, there's a few options up for Kang. Well, no, not scrapping it. They're actually going to recast it. I've been hearing now, and it's like, why? Because that's my question to you guys.
Some of them, because they don't have to do that. Because basically, Kang's storyline was concluded in Loki season 2. That ended Kang right there. Because the only way that they bring him back is because they have already invested so much into a script where they bring him back. Here's like the thing. The only way you get Kang back at this point after Loki season 2 is you have to make a concerted effort to bring him back. Because as it is right now, the entirety of the DVA's mission is to end all the Kangs as they appear. That's what the TVA does. That's all they do, as Loki is holding the entire multiverse together. That is now the canon of the MCU. So the only way that you bring him back is that you first have to jump through some hoops to actively make that happen. You have to address Loki season 2. You have to get into the TVA. Either that or you have to strike Loki season 2 from canon. But otherwise, you have to address the fact that he's gone. They have basically already solved the problem. They would have to bring it back again by recasting, only to bring back a script that maybe they already spent millions on developing, to which I would say, just trash it. Just keep it in the trash. You tried Kang, didn't work, let it rest, don't recast him, just let that whole thing go. Do the multiverse, but there ain't no Kang anymore. You tried and you failed. Leave it at that.
I wonder what they're going to do with this Deadpool Wolverine movie with the TVA and how that's going to.
Well, we will wait.
We'll find out.
We will wait and see.